In this moment, at this time, I invite each and every one of you to allow the great wave that is Spirit itself to just wash over you, cleansing anything that no longer serves you, and awakening the wonderful, creative, inspiring parts of you. If you feel so inclined, go ahead and take a nice deep cleansing breath in, breathing in cool, calming light. And as you release the breath, let go of all that no longer serves you. Any thoughts of the past or future, just put them aside for now. Go ahead and take another nice deep cleansing breath in. And as you release this breath, open yourself up to all the possibilities that are for you. Go ahead and allow your body to just relax in this moment, letting go of any stress or tension you may be holding in your neck or jaw, shoulders, your back. Just let it go for now. And as you allow your body to relax, allow your mind to be here, now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself up to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and receptive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose.
I choose.
I now center upon that one very special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me. I allow myself to relax in the peace of joy and fulfillment and gratefully speak these words. I release.
I release.
Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This could be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in this room or even on this planet anymore. I turn to that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in this room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I'm grateful for the good in your lives.
When you say, I am, or I am that I am, tatvamasi, it's derived from the Sanskrit, from the Hindu practice. If you say that which we are, comes from a poem by, I believe it's T.S. Eliot. And if you say, I am what I am, it's Popeye the Sailor. I welcome you here in part 4. This is the conclusion of a series today on the basics of the science of mind, but we are not straying far in the weeks and months to come. In fact, next week we're going to kick off a series on the inner healing experience. Now, the inner healing experience is what you heard Danielle lead us through. It's better known to many of us as, quote unquote, the thing where you put your hand on your chest. If you don't remember the whole, well, we're going to go through all of the passages in there and parse them and see how they fit and what they mean and how they tie into everything else that we know. And for those of you who are in the room, you'll have a copy of it in your Sunday program. And for those of you who are watching online, you'll have a photo of it on Facebook, and we'll figure out a way to get it into the comments on YouTube too, so that you'll have the document in front of you, to look through it. And that's February. It's also Black History Month. It's also Valentine's Day. It's also the tail end of it is, starting the end of this week is the Lunar New Year, and then we also have coming up Mardi Gras at some point in all this. So it's always a busy spring. There's never a month that goes by where it's like one thing. Maybe August. August is one. And actually, August has nothing in it. August is just empty. Somebody's going to look up and say, it's my birthday in August. Uh-oh. Whoa, okay. Well, then you own August, huh? It's back to school. That's right. It's back to school time. And everybody looks forward to it. Lamas is, the 1st? The 1st of August, is it? Or the 31st? Okay. Speaking of that, Reverend Lisa is going to be leading an Imbolc event on the last, whatever day it is, I don't know, some Sunday in February. Next week, actually, isn't it? It's next week. Next Sunday. Groundhog Day. Yes. We're also going to have a couple of special guests in the room with us next week, but she'll tell you more about that going forward. Anyway, to get on with business here. So there are 4 introductory chapters in the Science of Mind textbook. You recall this: the thing itself, the way it works, what it does, and how to use it. Today is about how to use it. How to use what, you may ask, if you're new with us or haven't been paying attention. Well, in that case, you can watch the videos of previous weeks and see. But what we're talking about here is a spiritual system that says there's one life, one power, one presence. Many call it God, or that which is, or the ultimate ground of all being, or the great I am. You are an experience that it's having in this world at this time by means of you. You are one with it. You've never been anything less than one with it. And if it seems like you have been, the work to be done, shall we say, is on your side of the equation, not on the side of the infinite. In other words, we don't need God to forgive us. We don't need God to change in its relationship to us or anything like that, though we may have been taught we did. We may have been taught we had to make deals with God, and we had to arm twist God, and we had to schmooze God up, to get something workable going here. What really has to happen is we open ourselves to accept the divine nature. We open ourselves to accept and receive the good that we seek in life. So it's a spiritual psychology as we have developed, as we've talked about this going forward. Now, how do you use all of this? Well, it's very subjective because you want to balance things out. You want to find kind of the middle way. It's not all or nothing. This is not an all or nothing kind of spiritual teaching, and that may be why it's a little perplexing to people sometimes, because if you came up in a spiritual teaching that said, okay, this list of stuff, these are sins, and this other list over here, these are what? Graces. These are acts of righteousness. So you have wickedness and righteousness. Simple, easy. All you got to do is follow the one list, avoid the other. Oh, there might be some occasions where there's a little head scratching about how exactly it works, but it's pretty clear. It's pretty direct. Not so in this teaching. In fact, we've been accused, are you ready for this? Moral ambivalence. Moral ambivalence means that you don't just jump up and condemn yourself or others for thoughts, words, or even behaviors that you don't understand, that seem outside the pale. It means everybody is seeking their good. I read Emma Curtis Hopkins, and about 8 statements that she makes about how everything in life is seeking its good even when it appears it's not. And what I took away from that, and even began to think was a direct quote of hers, although it wasn't, you got to be careful about that kind of thing, is that all evil is done in the name of good. Everybody thinks they're getting what they need by doing what they do. Now, in a social system, it doesn't excuse it. There are consequences for every action. There are also consequences for every word and every thought. They're not as obvious, but they're there. Everything is a cause, and every cause generates an effect. And every effect becomes a subsequent cause of further effects. And the whole thing loops back around, so that you can't ever really figure out where cause ends and effect begins, because there is no such point. It's all shifting. Now, you are who you are, and you want what you want, and you have a certain identity and a certain presence that you brought to this space today, but you're changing. You're changing by the minute. The people who are closest to you spot this. Sometimes it alarms them. They'll say, well, you're changing. You've changed. What happened to the person I used to know? Well, I learned more about myself. I learned more about life. As you learn more about yourself, your desires change. Therefore, your use of spiritual law changes. So it's all kind of a shifting thing and very subjective, and how do you feel? And that's what we come back to. There is, as I talked about last week, a changeless presence that incorporates all change. A changeless presence that incorporates all change. The changeless presence is that thing we call God. It's sort of the mothership. It sort of hovers everywhere, and it's infinite. It has no end to it. It's timeless. It's eternal. It's all there is, this one, working through us, manifesting through us. And within it, being infinite, must be all change that occurs and all change that is possible to occur. Spirit, God, the mothership, the all, is not only the life that everything is having, it's the life that everything could have. It is, in other words, not only everything in form, it's everything in potential, everything that could possibly be. Think about yourself right now. You could jump up out of your chair and go do anything, couldn't you? I mean, you're entitled to. I mean, even if it's wrong, you could do it. Even if it's awful, you could do it. Even if it's wonderful, you could do anything at all. But the list of things available to you to do only extends as far as your imagination. The menu of stuff for your life only extends as far as you've imagined. And every day you're encountering things and it's like, whoa, I never knew that. I never thought of that. I never thought I could do that. Did you hear about, I mean, there are all sorts of strange things. I just read a thing this week and it was behind a paywall, so I couldn't get very far with it, and I'm going to have to look it up. Maybe some of you've read it, and Lisa will be finding it for you now, and it says that the gallstones of a cow are worth more than gold. I mean, like literally worth more than gold. They sell for more than gold. And I have no idea, because it was behind a paywall, what you use these things for. The gallstones of a cow, what function they perform. But now that I know that, she's already shifting into gear. Now that I know that, I can't let that go. I mean, I'll forget it in time because it's not like life-changing information, but right now it's there for me. And I also think that because it crossed my field of vision, I have some kind of responsibility with it. And as a public speaker, I brought it to you. Now it's your problem. Okay? Now you're going to sit there and think about it and wonder what it means and what you could do with it and say, maybe I know some cows. You know, maybe I don't wish, gallbladder problems on them, but if they have them, perhaps I could benefit from this. My family and I could become cattle ranchers, and it could be life-changing information to you. Who knows? Chinese medicine. That's why. Okay. There you go. You see? So every minute we're picking up new information, and that's the kind of thing, I mean, that's on BuzzFeed or something, but there's stuff that occurs to you. You put your own life together. You start thinking about the past. You start realizing the memories that you have, the sensations, and what all of this meant, what your life was pointing toward. Every time you do that, your imagination is stretched a little further. Every time your imagination is stretched, you get called into action, don't you? Now that you know, you must do. One who knows now must do. There's something to it now. It's calling you forward, you see. We're only limited by the extent of our imagination, how things could be. So what the Science Mind teaching, this that you're in today, proposes is that as far as prayer goes, try this. Try imagining the life that you would like to lead as though you were already leading it. Create a picture in your mind as replete with detail as you possibly can, without forcing the issue. If it feels like something doesn't fit, leave it be, But imagine your life as you would have it be, especially at the level of feeling, at the level of emotion. You don't have to worry so much about what color to paint the walls and all of that. That'll fill itself in. The details will take care of themselves. But how do you wish to feel about your life? If you're not sure how you wish to feel about your life, ask yourself how you feel about your life right now. If you say, well, there's some anxiety and some uncertainty and some discomfort, well, address those. What are these about? What are they telling you? Where do they come from? Is there something you can do about them? In an allopathic, in other words, practical sort of way. And if it's more existential angst, where where there's just sort of a cloud of doom or fear or something like that, anything that's discomforting to you, that hanging over you. Turn and have a good look at it. Look the discordant system of facts in the face, and describe to it the truth. Describe to it the truth. Look it in the face and describe to it that there is, in fact, one life. And that life is spirit, and that life is perfect and whole and complete, and that life is now called forth. In fact, in scriptural terms, they call it commanding. That life is now commanded to step forward into the space occupied by this fact set that is no longer working for me. Picture a reality and then step into it and pull it around you. That's how you effect change through prayer. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, makes this point relentlessly, and it's a point that it's obvious to you when you start doing this work. Because the old form of prayer that a lot of us were taught was so separate, was so remote and aloof. Oh, God, if you're out there someplace, I've heard you are, then please relieve me of this situation, or do whatever it is you do and try to fix it up. And there's, right? And there's not a lot of juice behind that, is there? Certainly not a lot of confidence and trust. So what we want to do is realize we're in partnership with Spirit. In fact, the term that often gets used is we are co-creators. We are co-creators with the infinite. You're creating your own life. You make a choice, it leads to certain effects and so on. And none of that would happen but for you making these choices that you do. You're co-creating. You're breathing the air that preceded you here. You're wearing a body that you didn't invent, you didn't create out of nothing. So a lot was furnished for you, but a lot still remains to be done. You found a career, you found a partner, you have friends, you have a dog, you have a cat, you have, and you have dreams and wishes and hopes and longings, and you've got memories of the past, and you've got all of this stuff pulled together, and you've got something to do with it. Something left to do, no matter what, no matter how long you've been on the planet and what you've accomplished up to this point, you've got something more to do. So we use this prayer in order to achieve certain outcomes that are feeling based. Now, why do we keep coming back to feeling? Because form doesn't cut it. Form doesn't cut it. There are plenty of people on this planet who have an accumulation of forms that the rest of us think, well, they should be happy because look at this. I mean, money, stuff, lots of friends, or fame. There's another word for that, which aren't really necessarily friends, but you've got a population around you, and so on. And we say, well, if I were that person, boy, I'd just be thrilled. Are they thrilled? Maybe they are. Maybe they're not. You find that it's not really the accumulation of stuff that brings you a sense of prosperity, and it's not a crowd of people. It brings you an experience of harmony or love. You find that it's how you feel based on your interpretation of everything. For example, let's say that you have all of a sudden come into great good. And it seems like all your problems have been solved, and now you're worried that this might stop. Now you're worried that the rug might get pulled out from under you. What if you had some trauma in your life at one point, and you worry the other shoe's going to drop? There may be more of this. Well, that's an anxiety that it causes you to not appreciate the present moment that you're sitting in. So what do you want to do about that? You want to address that anxiety directly and say, look, if I'm responsible, like Brian's song said, if I'm responsible for creating the context of my own life, and I do that at the feeling level, how would it be? This is a big ask here. This is a big trust issue for a lot of people. How would it be if I felt good about myself and my life right now without anything else having happened yet? Without anything else having been taken away or brought in? What if right now I just felt great about myself and my life? And not only that, I felt great about your life, everybody's life. The person driving next to me on the freeway, their life. What do we say at the end of this inner healing experience? I'm grateful for the good. And whose life? Your life. Your life. Right? We grow it so as to give it away. I think it was somebody quoted, sent me an email this week, and they quoted Picasso, and it was the meaning of life. Yeah, the meaning of life is to, one or the other, meaning or purpose. I get them backward anyway. Let's just say, you can figure it out yourself. The meaning of life is to figure out what you want to do and do it. And the purpose of life is to give it away. Is to give it away, what you've done. That's awkward and inelegant, and Picasso's got his head in his hands right now, but that's the gist of the thing, right? Is to take it in and give it away. So we develop through practice. Ernest Holmes says that we have too much theory and too little practice. You can say that about anything, right? And we can say, well, what if? And I was just like, when I first heard this stuff, I was just like that. I was like, well, okay, wait a minute. My eyes got real narrow. You know how your eyes do? Wait a minute. You're not going to put something over on me. It can't be that simple. Actually, it is. And generations, ages of people have realized how simple it is. It's so simple, it can't be true. It's got to be more complicated than that. You got to have hierarchies of saints and angels and all sorts of people that you have to work through and convince. No, it's really just this simple. But we say, well, now what if this happens? What if that? Now what if this does? Now what if you say I don't want to be in denial, about all of my faults. So you're telling me to affirm the good that I want and step into it, and isn't that kind of sailing past or spiritual bypass so my negative qualities and stuff? No, and I'll tell you why. You can spend a lot of time every day focusing on your negative qualities, and I can't stop you. And nobody can. But this is talking about in prayer. This is not talking about over breakfast. This is talking about in prayer. In prayer, you don't focus on your negative qualities or the negative qualities of the condition that you seek to change. You focus on what you would put in its place in prayer, in that spiritual time that you've carved out for yourself. The rest of the time, if you want to be miserable, go ahead. I don't think you want to be, and you'll stop being, and so on. But I'm just saying, you can make long lists of all your faults and character defects and stuff, and sit there and all of that. But put it aside when it's time to pray. Go into that space and hold it sacred. In Scripture and in other spiritual writings, they talk about not defiling the house of the Lord, not defiling the temple. You see. And what that's speaking of is the metaphor of carrying all our trashy thoughts about ourselves into that space. Saying, well, here I am, God, you made me, but I'm this miserable wreck. And it's like, well, as Reverend Ike used to put it, God, don't make junk. Okay? So you're working on stuff. Sure, you're a job in progress. All of us are, We have character flaws and things habits really that we fall into, that we're working on. Our temper's an issue, or we get depressed or easily defeated at setbacks. And okay, so work on that. And if you need help working on it, there's help available. But in your prayer life, you don't need any help. A practitioner can treat for you, can treat about you, but they're not treating instead of you. Do you understand that? Okay. So we do our own work. And what Ernest Holmes implores, and all of us who teach this stuff implore, is try this. Try this. If you're skeptical about it, try it anyway and see what happens. I found the funniest thing. I don't know, I hope I can do this justice in describing it to you because it's a visual thing. They had this yellow bathtub ducky. Right? And it had a blue dot on it. And the caption said, stare at the blue dot and you'll see the ducky turn colors, and those colors will tell you how you're feeling. The ducky was yellow. Beneath the ducky were little circles illustrating what the different colors meant. And so like pink was happy and blue was sad and something else was green was something else, a whole array of different feelings. And I sat there and I looked at the blue dot on the yellow ducky, and nothing happened. Still a blue dot, still a yellow ducky. Until I looked down at the circles, the pink, the blue, the green. Next to them, in the corner, was a yellow circle, and it said gullible. Isn't that great? And you do this, and then it asks you, it says, so how long did you look at the blue dot? How long did you sit there and nothing happened, So we feel gullible. But why did I do it? Why would anybody do it? Because it's new and different. Let's try this. Let's see what happens, So this whole new metaphysical structure of prayer is new and different. Be a little gullible, for crying out loud. Try it. Leave your problems at the door, enter the temple, and do your prayer work. And if you insist, you can pick your problems back up on the way out. Now, I don't wish to make light of anybody's problems, because I know some people have some real serious problems. Well, here's the good news. This presence doesn't distinguish between serious problems and everything else. It knows form but not size, experience but not duration. What? Well, because it's infinite. It only knows that something is, not how it is. It doesn't have a capacity to evaluate its own creation. This is the shortcut to why God doesn't judge. It's not because God is too nice a God to judge, but could, and watch out if it did. No. It can't judge because it can't step outside of itself to gain a vantage point from which to judge its own creation. Why? Because it's infinite. It's got nowhere to go. Well, because it's infinite and it has nowhere, all it knows is that I am. All it knows, it says that to itself. If it says anything to itself, it says, I am. I am that I am. And here you are, and here I am, and here are the people next door, and here's traffic, and and it all is. It's just I am. And within that created field, there are all the contentions and all of the strivings and all of the comparisons and competitions and stuff that we humans set up for ourselves. But in the big picture, there's just this great I am. So you go to this I am in prayer and you say, oh God, I'm a wreck. I've got this terrible set of problems. I've had them for years. They go way back. And you expect sometimes God to be like the therapist and say, whoa, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, we got a lot of work to do then. And it opens its notebook, and starts writing all this stuff down. It knows form but not size. It knows the experience of something but not how long something has been happening. So you go to that and it doesn't say, well, there's a deep problem here, long journey ahead. No. You know what it says? Come unto me. Come unto me. All you who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Come unto me. And so you go to that, and all it asks of you is, what would you have instead? What would you have instead? What would you put in the place of this? And if you say, I don't know, it says, come back when you do. Okay? If you say, I don't know, it says, go think about it. Go think about it and come back when you do. Or as one of our practitioners put it years ago, it's beautifully put, it says, if you don't know what you want, how would you feel if you did? If you don't know what you want, how would you feel? You can always step back. You see, it's like, well, I don't know what to do next. Well, how would you feel if you were confidently filled with direction and purpose and meaning in your life? How would that feel to you? Well, I don't know. Well, when was the last time you felt that way? Sometimes people throw you a curve and say, I've never felt that way. I've never felt that way. I was talking to somebody years ago. They said, how would it feel? When was the last time you felt loved and cherished? And they said, I've never felt loved and cherished. Well, that's heartbreaking, isn't it? But it's still not, well, you still don't say, well, then I can't help. Sorry. Try someplace else. No, it's somebody has felt loved and cherished. It exists. in the collective thought atmosphere. Go tap into somebody else's bliss for a while until you cultivate your own. You can do that. You can do that. Read the biographies of people who have done things that you think you might like to do, and it will fill in spaces in your consciousness and in your character that seem to be lacking, you know? Find a person who seems happy and say, so what do you know? That's how a lot of people come to this teaching, let me tell you. We could advertise, we could hire the Goodyear blimp to, which, by the way, used to live in this neighborhood. That's a great story sometime. I used to sit in my office and hear the blimp go over. It was right down there on Holsworth at the freeway where the Home Depot store is now. Anyway, that's off the point. But you could hire the blimp to advertise this teaching to the world, and we're doing what we can through social media and all this sort of thing. But the number one way that people find this teaching is at the proverbial office water cooler. So I don't even know if anybody go to offices anymore. I don't know if there's water cooler. But it means where you used to handle things a certain way and now you handle them differently. You've changed, and people say, what do you know that I don't? Why aren't you bothered by this? Why aren't you throwing yourself around the room because of all of the trouble? And you say, well, because I have a spiritual practice. Maybe you'd like to know about it. We don't go door to door. We don't roust people, bring them into this. But people want to know. There's an expression in 12-step groups. It says, I want what you have. I want what this person has who has long-term sobriety. Or, I want that. It doesn't mean I want, to be them, take over their life. It means I want that journey. I want that program, that quality of life they have. So how do you get it? You do it yourself. I'll leave you with this. You know enough right now to do this. I want you to come back next week and the week after that and the week after that for the rest of your life. I really do. Here at Creative Life, in person or online. If you can't make it in person, I want you to do that. We have wonderful classes. I'd like you to take all of them. I'd like you all to become practitioners and ministers and write books and do stuff, But that's just me. But none of that's necessary, because right now, you know enough. You've always known it. Deep down inside, you've always known it. That there was something that you didn't always get what you wanted, but you kind of, in a way, always got at the level of feeling what you believed you were, who you believed you were, and what you believed you were entitled to. There was always, has always in your life been some kind of synchronicity or concord, between your inner process and your outer experience. So start today with this. Carve out a little space of time in your day. You've got time for it. All the other stuff can wait. I know a lot of demands are put on us, but you can carve out some time. You don't have to sit in a particular posture. You don't have to light incense or candles. You can if you want, but just sit there and say, there's one life. That life is spirit. That life is all the life there is. That life is my life right now. And then declare into that the reality that you wish to experience. Don't go too complicated and long, because you'll lose interest in it. You'll lose traction, see, if it becomes one of the, and furthermore, and the party of the second part, and it becomes a contract, that you're reading in the spirit. Well, all of the emotion drains out of it. That's why they say make your affirmations short and punchy and evocative. Describe the reality that you wish to occupy. That's how we use the science of mind. Now, we have every Wednesday, 11:30, Danielle leads a guided meditation on Facebook. Every single day, Reverend David reads the daily guide from Science of Mind magazine. They've been running daily guides since 1927, uninterruptedly. Reverend Lisa reads out of the Science of Mind textbook She's up to the meditations at the back of the book. You want more? We have book studies during the week. I'm getting into announcements here, but I mean, we have every possible way. And if you were to come up with and say, can you deliver me this information in this way that we're not yet doing, we'll find a way to do it. All we need is you to ask for it. Maybe we haven't thought of it, you see? So we're here for you, but you got to do your work. One of my mentors in this teaching used to say that when somebody would come to him and they'd say, I have a real problem, I need to talk to somebody, he'd say, well, have you done your work? Have you done your work first? Meaning, have you taken it into prayer as you know to do before we have this conversation about it? And he wouldn't run them off if they hadn't, but it was a good reminder to do your work, to know this certain thing. So I'll close with this treatment real quick, and you'll hear more always. One life, one power, one presence on this beautiful rainy day. It's brought us all together here to share in this knowing of a power that's transcendent and beautiful and amazing and awaits our conscious use and recognition of it, which we now freely give. We're willing to trust in this power. We've never seen it, we've never tasted it or smelled it because it is invisible, it is intangible, but it is infinite. It is all powerful. It is all wise, all capable. And it's all love. It's all love. And all it asks of us is to be who we are, to choose to know the truth of our own being, and to see it and feel it discovered more and more with each passing moment. I am willing to commit myself to the spiritual practice of unfolding this in my life through meditation and prayer, willing to set aside time for this to happen, and willing to follow where it leads. For this knowing and its manifestation in form, everywhere I turn, I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is.
And then the last thing is, hang on. The words just popped right out of my head. So we are, it's giving time. I'm like, what am I struggling with here? I joked about it last week. It's like in ministerial school, the only time Reverend Norm, ooh, blessed be his memory, Reverend Norm was a hard teacher. He was a hard teacher. And the only thing he docked me on in one class, and I was poised for, is I forgot giving time. Oh, yeah. But the funny thing is he's not the one that caught it. One of the students caught it. So, giving time. Giving time. There's a lot of good that we can do in this world, and one of the ways that you can help us do that good is by supporting us. And there's multiple ways to do that. My favorite way is there's a form you can fill out in the bookstore where once a month, Jesse just does the amount. So I don't have to worry about it. If I don't show up, center still gets the money. There's lots of ways that you can do that. So what I would invite you to do now is take your gift, either in hand or metaphorically in hand, and say with me now, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is. Now you'll see why I changed the announcements is because the last announcement I'm going to remind you is the bookstore will be open. Okay? So the bookstore will be open after service. If there's something that you want, you can come and pin. Looks like it's going to be me and Jesse today. And the reason why I changed it is because Jesse mentioned a good way is to read biographies. You don't have to just read biographies. You can read fiction. Okay? If you want to get into somebody else's head and look at a situation from their perspective, read. George R.R. Martin, my husband's favorite and most despised author, you can ask him why, said a reader lives 1,000 lives and a man who has never reads has only lived one. So if you are looking for a particular mindset, a particular way of feeling, read. And read it all. Read the fiction, the nonfiction, the science fiction, the fantasy. Read it all. I have lived and died so many lives, and it opens up that empathy and compassion. So read. If you're looking for a particular feeling, ask anybody who loves to read. I bet you Jesse could give you a couple of really good suggestions too. Anybody who loves to read, we will be thrilled to. I have been known to buy books for people. I don't loan my books. I can't, but I will buy you a copy. I will also not borrow a book from you for the same reason I don't loan books. I'm bad about giving them back. Read. All right. Now, the last responsibility is to do a treatment. I'm looking at Jim. Do you want to do the closing treatment? All right, well, come on. I threw him for a loop by changing the way I did the announcements.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm available in the back if anybody would like prayer or just even want to talk. Wow. I think I've got your charge. So I bring my mind to that thing that is beyond who I am. To that entity, that divinity whose form we give by speaking that it is wisdom, it is love, it is inspiration, and it has our back. And I am one with this, and if this is true for me, it's true for everyone in this room. And so I speak this words for us gathered here, that it knows, and it loves, and it responds. And all we have to do is think about it, and it is there. So with gratitude, I speak these words into the law of creation and wish everyone here love and prosperity. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it. I trust it. I use it. And I love it. And so it is.